It was harder to get through people, to engage in a conversation. I felt they were much smarter than I was. That went on for a while. Then I started the confirmation classes. And as they started the prayer, I would start crying, not knowing why I was crying. And that was me and Jesus. And then just the healing of what God wanted to do in me there. And I understood why I didn't have a friend. He wanted to be my friend. And this is how He showed His mercy, His love, and how He can change our life. My name is Felipe Cunha. I'm from Brazil. I'm married, I have 3 kids. My wife is expecting another one, and we have lost 2. So 6 kids, 2 in heaven. And I'm from a small town called Tianguá in Ceará. And my parents were born and raised Catholic. My dad worked in a bank. My mom was all sort of things, nurse, politician, and now she works in a school. And it's been 10 years I've been living in Belfast, and it's a great privilege to be in Northern Ireland. I work in a bank, and I'm part of the Legion of Mary since I moved to Ireland, first in Dublin for 6 months, and then Belfast since 2016. I'm vice president of the Comitium of the Legion of Mary in the Diocese of Down-Connor in Northern Ireland. So growing up, I remember my grandmother, she could probably be more this visible sign of how a Catholic should live their life. And I think that impression stayed with me. So we were always encouraged to say our prayers and things like that. But my life wasn't in keeping with that faith tradition. You know, as a child, I was very much into the idea of I need to go out with girls, I want to drink, I want to smoke, I want to do all these things, you know. And it's very interesting that there was a background of faith, but the living out of it was very poor. As I grew up, I remember, for example, 9-10 years old, I was already drinking and going out, and the idea in my mind, I remember, was like to go out with as many girls as possible. When I became a teenager, the curiosity around the drinks was not there anymore. So then we thought there was a very popular drug in Brazil. It increased the heartbeat and it increased the excitement, and it was just popped in our head, oh, we need to try that. We need to try and see how it's like. And then every time we'd go out and buy it, and then I would not have the courage to use it, because one of the side effects is you can have a cardiac arrest, and because of the increase of the heartbeat, and I was really afraid of it. Then at some stage, they just made a deal that I need to be the one to take it, because I was the craziest one among them, and then it didn't make sense for me to be the one that didn't take it. I remember one occasion where a friend just say, I have some old jewelry here from my mom, we can just sell it. And I didn't think through how crazy this was, how dangerous this was, and how deep the problem had become. And I just said, all right, I can sell that, yeah, easy. So I just he said his mom didn't want anymore. So I just took them, brought to the person who worked in my aunt's house, and then sold for her for like £2. And then we went out, had our drinks, and had whatever we needed to have. And then my aunt one day asked her, the person that worked with her, how do you get these gold rings? And she said, well, Felipe sold me. So that's how they caught. Well, Felipe told you that. So how did Felipe get these ring? And then it became a thing about what happened. And then my mom and dad had a close eye on me. I didn't know all that. That was only the background. But as we were going out, every day we were trying to buy these poppers. And then I was doing gym at the time at 5 a.m. I was only 13 years old. And what happened was my dad thought I was selling drugs in my gym because I was going 5 a.m. to this gym. It was unusual for someone at my age, and then going out every day. And they knew I was buying the drugs because it was a friend of mine that sold. And then that was a big thing in my family. My dad had to stop and talking to me, and he had made a decision that I had to move out from the city. I was sent to Fortaleza. I left my parents' house, lived there with my sister in the first couple of months, then went on to live on my own. When I was there at 13 years old, I had my first communion, and it was good. It was a good moment there with God. My second communion, my dad said something before I went up to the communion, and I was upset with him. He was complaining with me about something else, and I was upset with him, and I never joined the line for the Holy Communion. My catechist saw that event in the church. So next month, then I had to subscribe to go to the confirmation classes, and I wasn't allowed because she saw this event and she said, I'm not ready. My mom then saw the situation, saw my friendship, that she didn't want me to be around, and how I was going deeper and deeper into something that she didn't want me to go. She said, there is a school in Fortaleza where it's Catholic, and many people had conversion experience going to these, they have confirmation classes there. So I'm glad it didn't work out here. I want you to do in Fortaleza. When I moved to Fortaleza, I forgot how to make friends. I was just someone, I wasn't rich, coming from a very small city in Brazil called Tianguá, and going to Fortaleza, which is the capital of my state, Ceará. People didn't give a dime for who I was. They didn't care who I was, where I was coming from. I was feeling very, very lonely. And then when I went back to my city, I want to prove that reality wasn't mine. So I would go even crazier about the drinks. I would go even crazier about the girls. I want to show off that, no, that's just there. Because in Tianguá, my family had a school, the school that I grew up studying there. It belongs to my family, so they have the impression that we are rich. So I never had problems making friends. We always had friends, and surrounded by people. And being from a small city, it's also much easier to become friends because you have neighbors and everything. Going to Fortaleza, that changed dramatically. It was harder to get through people, to engage in a conversation. I felt they were much smarter than I was, more interesting than I was. They could talk about other things, and that went on for a while. Then I started the confirmation classes. And then going to these confirmation classes, they have the talks, they had that moment of praise and worship, and then they would switch off the lights and then start the prayer. And as they start the prayer, I would start crying, but not knowing why I was crying. And then week after week, I felt there was something changing. There was something changing there. And I would see people talking to me more, and I would see people that had already the experience with God, smiling and talking and starting conversations. And that was something that started to caught my eyes. I remember one day in my house where I had this moment where I was crying, and I just knelt down in the window. I live in the 8th floor in an apartment, and I just knelt down. I could see the city, and I just pray and ask God to teach me how He wanted me to live. I didn't know what He was doing. I didn't understand what was happening, but He teach me. please teach me. And I remember at that stage, I got all my rock band's posters and start to rip them apart. I said, if that's keeping me away from you, I want to understand what's happening and all these things. And then there was one day a speaker there called Paulo Amorim. He started talking about the Eucharist. And I didn't really know. I knew the Eucharist. I knew the people say it was the body and blood of Jesus Christ and all these. But he started to make a prayer around that. So all lights switched off. They put the light on the Blessed Sacrament. And there was a song that started playing. Go running to meet the Father. He's waiting to see you. Give a step in his direction and you will see with the eyes of the faith. The more they sing that chorus again, it just came to my mind. Go running to meet the Father, and my heart just want to go on the top of everyone over the seats. I just want to go running and be before the Lord. And as I was feeling that, I was almost doing it. He just said, if you want to come here, please come. That was my call. I was feeling that, and he just confirmed it. So I just went to the front and then knelt down, and that was me and Jesus. And then just the healing, the healing of what God wanted to do in me there. And I understood why I didn't have friends. He wanted to be my friend. He wanted me to teach. There are many ways you can try. I can give you the best one. And from that moment, I had this eye-to-eye conversation with the Lord. I didn't know how to continue that. I just thought I had to be living my life in a certain way. And I was going to continue just my life as it was. And week after week. So the holidays came and I went back to my city. But things were not the same. There was something changing inside me that I couldn't quite explain. The feeling was different. There was something changed. And I remember then I started to see there's a Protestant group, and I was just playing their songs, and then out of the blue I saw this song where they're talking about God, and again it was about this friendship with Christ. And they would do a concert in Fortaleza, and then I say, Mom, I need to go to this, and she says, I'm sorry, you can't, because it will be your confirmation retreat, and you cannot do your confirmation at the end of the year if you don't go to the retreat. Little I knew that these retreats was where people had the experience God when they actually had the conversions. It's not during the course, it's on the retreat. And I didn't know, so I was very upset with my mom going to this retreat. I went it anyway. They divided the rooms, the bedrooms, with people who study in the same classes in the school. So I was already very humiliated by the guys in my school. So it was very bad to be in the same bedroom as them. So every night, every day in the retreat was just another humiliation. But there was something that changed there. So there was a guy with a guitar, and I knew him from the confirmation classes, and I said, can I borrow your guitar? And he said, yes. So I went, there was a lake, and I started to play in this lake on my own, just playing these songs. And this catechist approached me by the lake, and he was a very good singer and a very good musician called Claudio Henrique. And he started conversation with me. I was like, nobody talks to me. Why these guys talking to me? But then he didn't want to talk about God or anything. Thank God, because if he wanted, I would probably say, stop, bro, stay away. But he just say, what are you playing? And I said what I was playing. And then he said, oh, I know how to play. I know how to sing this song. Can you play? And I sing. And so I start to play, and he started to sing. He was just making the connection. You see, he's just trying to find a point in common. The interesting thing was, after this moment, he said, man, you're so cool and all. And I was like, I don't think I am. And then he said, do you want to go and have dinner with me? So then he put me in the table with all the musicians, and I'm a musician as well. So it's like, I was very happy to be part of this table. And then he introduced me to everyone at the table, and they say, here, this Felipe is a cool guy. He knows how to play guitar and all these. So then we had a kind of this moment. And he invited me to go to the prayer group. And he said, No, but sorry, I live too far away. And he insisted, he said, "But just tell me where you live." I said, "Okay, I'll tell you where I live." And then I explained where I lived, and I say, "Mate, you won't believe me. I'm your neighbor. I actually live beside you there. So I will definitely be taking you to the prayer group." And that group is called Lumen. And Lumen is a community in Brazil. They do one event called Com Deus Tem Jeito, which is with God, there's a way, where they get people out of homelessness. 7,000 people bring to an event or retreat, and then bring them to rehabilitation house and things like that. It's a powerful work. And then it was people in the Lumen that start to teach me the faith. So although I had my experience with God at that time, was these people who start to say the do's and don'ts, that's what you should do, that's what you shouldn't do. And then we start to do evangelization in the favelas, we start to go out and do things, and then I start to learn the church songs. One day I went to an event called Toca Forte, and this event, the priest had a gift of praying over people. And I remember one of the brothers passing by, and I touched his habit, and I just thought, I need to dress like that. I want to be poor as they are. I want to give all my life to Jesus. And that was just the very beginning of everything. And that led me to then join a monastic life for 3 years. And then when I left, that's when I decided to come to Ireland. When you feel betrayed by friends again, or when you feel that, do you actually have friends? When you keep wondering those things, what I try to do, I try to remember Jesus in the Blessed Sacrament, and I repeat that prayer, which is, Jesus, you are my love. Jesus, you are my only and great friend. Jesus, I love you. This prayer keep me going. And when I arrived in Ireland, new culture, new language, nothing, I knew one place I had to go to. I had to go to the church. At that stage, I was married. 4 days later, we came to Ireland. So I never had my marriage life in Brazil. My whole marriage life has been in Ireland. And then I helped in the Brazilian community, but I really wanted to learn English. So someone told me there was this old man that would do free English classes using the Bible. So then I went to these English classes, and this man called Tig, he was the one that gave these English classes. So he do Portuguese and English, and teach us English using Bible quotations and how to say the rosary and things like that. And that's how I joined the Legion of Mary. At some stage he invited me to go to the Legion, and I joined the Legion. And then Tig gave me Tom Honey's number, which was an Irish envoy from the Legion of Mary in Brazil. So he also spoke Portuguese. He was almost 90, but he still remembered his Portuguese. So he introduced me to visit the Legion of Mary and join them here. I was just lucky that I had the Legion of Mary to find a place where I could be, where I could do the things that I was doing in Brazil. I organized events in Brazil. I want to organize events here. When I eventually had enough English to articulate my ideas, then the Legion of Mary gave me all the support, and we've been doing some great things in Belfast with the help of Our Lady and our Lord. The spirituality of the Legion is very close to what I had experienced back in Brazil, of the evangelization. You need to go out. It's not only a prayer meeting, you do your prayers and then you hide in your home. There was this feeling of you need to do something. We'd go to the favelas, we'd evangelize, we'd do events, we'd do things. And here I think the Legion is the only place where I found for myself that gave me the support to, like, yes, you're gonna pray, but we need to do something. We need to go out. Jesus has proven me that he can be more intimate friend than anyone can be. And this is his greater glory. And this is for his greater glory. And this is how he showed his mercy, his love, and how he can change our life. I'm in a point of my life where there's a lot of sin involved, in a conversion path. You don't change from one day to the other. You fall so many times on the way as well. But the whole point is, let's picture that. I work from home. Sometimes I need to be minding my babies while I'm working, and then I have them playing here and I'm working here. But my mind is in both places. That's the spiritual life. We need to have Jesus with us as we were minding our baby. Imagine Jesus as being the baby Jesus, as you're holding him. And everywhere you go, you have this in the back of your mind. Baby Jesus is with me. I need to mind him. I need to protect him. Because that's how you protect your spiritual life from all the attacks from outside. You don't want this baby hurt. Would you watch something that's improper if you are holding a baby? Would you watch something that's not appropriate? Would you listen to something if you had your child with you? Would you listen to something that's inappropriate? You would not. Would you allow someone to talk something bad to you if you had a child you say, shh, he's here? Do the same thing with your spiritual life. Hold this baby and protect it and feed this friendship. Let's live this experience to nurture your body and your spiritual life.